Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here, and today's topic of discussion requires a little bit of backstory. Starting with Sunday. This past Sunday, I released a video talking about the West Virginia 44, the Tier 7 Premium American battleship. Now, this was a premium ship that was released back in July. However, it was several years in the making and had several years of hype leading up to it, ever since we received the West Virginia 41. When that ship came out, many players assumed, oh, this one's got 41 behind the name, we're probably getting the post-Pearl Harbor modernized West Virginia. West Virginia was one of the battleships that was present for the Pearl Harbor attacks. She was sunk by the Japanese and subsequently refloated and received a very extensive modernization after her refloating and was sent back into action. Very cool story, cool historical ship, and not to mention she was also a secondary focused American battleship, a very popular breed of battleships, if I do say so myself. So the ship was incredibly hyped up, incredibly popular, and upon her release she was pretty much well received across the board, and well, that I thought would be, well, the West Virginia's thing. However, given recent months and the fact that I play at Tier 7 Plus a lot, I noticed that I hadn't really seen many West Virginia 44s in game at all, so I thought she'd be a very good choice to do one of my forgotten ship videos on her. My forgotten ship videos are ships that have been released. They were usually either popular, pretty well received upon their initial release, but they seem to fall off the face of the game subsequently after given a couple of months, because either their gimmick has been out gimmicked, or the game had rapidly progressed in a manner which is not conducive to these ships doing well. And that's what I did on Sunday's video. However, when that video was released, many of you, rightfully so, pointed out that the West Virginia 44 had been pulled from sale shortly after her release, which I thought was rather quite odd, because typically the ships that get released and are sold for cash, premium ships, the only time they really get pulled that quickly after their release in previous years was, well, one, they were broken, something like the Graf Zeppelin, or two, they were broken in the way of the Enterprise, that they were too good. But with the West Virginia 44's case, she was just removed from sale. And she wasn't in a situation like the Jaeger or the Brisbane, where you had to play through an event to acquire them, or throw a large amount of cash at the game to acquire them, and they would be released later for coal or some other resource that you could obtain for free. The West Virginia 44 was just an outright for cash premium ship, but she was removed, which is very odd. So that happened, and I thought, well, that's really quite strange. And then I dug a little bit further, and it turns out Wargaming's done this quite a lot recently, even as recently as a week ago. So fast forward a little bit, and two newly released ships that I've very, very much recently reviewed, the Car of the 14th Johann and the Navarin, have had the exact same thing happen to them. Now, the Car of the 14th, this is a ship that was released a couple of months ago. It is a secondary focused pan-European battleship that, again, was pretty well received. It's got this goofy gimmick where her detection is the same range as, well, actually, it's less than her torpedo range, and she has good secondaries. So you have a torpedo battleship that's also a secondary ship. Very weird combination of traits, but hey, turned out to be a pretty good little battleship, in my opinion. Same thing happened. She was released for sale and subsequently pulled. And then this one I'm really shocked at. The Navarin, the Tier 9 Premium Soviet battleship, that's the first ever secondary focused Soviet battleship that was released 2 weeks ago, has already been pulled from the premium shop. which again is very strange. Which even more strange is that the Navarin was originally announced as being available for doubloons in the armory, but apparently that was a miscommunication between Wargaming and the player base, and even the CCs. Most of the CCs said that she's available for doubloons as well, but Wargaming said nope, that was a mistake. But you could buy her outright for cash in the premium shop on the website for a normal cash value for a tier 9 premium ship, $77 US, which I get. Some of you might be saying, well, that's a lot for a digital item, but by this game standards, it's a normal price for a tier 9 premium ship, right? And again, she wasn't really in any type of event like the Brisbane or the Jaeger. She was just released. You could acquire her in loot boxes, but I mean, half of the new premium ships that come out can be obtained in loot boxes in some way, shape, or form. So that's not something that's, overtly odd about her release. And this is a ship that, again, my review came out for it 2 weeks ago. And my reviews come out typically a day or two after these ships get released. So this ship is literally not even a month old and has already been pulled from the premium shop. Why? Well, that's because, dear viewer, one or two theories I have. One is that Wargaming is absolutely just leaning into this new marketing method or sales method, whatever you want to call it. I think sales method would probably be the better term of FOMO. They are leaning so freaking hard into this fear of missing out mentality that they're trying to instill in the player base. Now, fear of missing out means that you are, of course, afraid that, hey, this thing is only available for a limited amount of time, so I need to buy it now, regardless of my financial situation or the fact that these are pixels that, there's not a limited number of these things, right? Like, it's not like there's a little man at Wargaming HQ manually making each individual copy of the Navarin, right? It's one model, it's a set of code. There's not a limited number of these things. If Wargaming doesn't want to put a limited number on these ships, it's not like a real life object, right? Where there's genuinely only so many of this object out there. It's, there's not a limited number of them is what I'm saying. So in order to create this fear of FOMO, they release something for a temporary amount of time and then they pull it. And then, of course, that gets the player base used to the idea of, oh, this is only going to be available for a limited amount of time. I need to get this now and spend money on the game, which is something that they have, ever since they caught a ton of flack for the whole loot box thing, for their container methods of previously releasing, early access ships and new features or new items in, I should say. They've slowly been transitioning to this new method because after that whole fiasco, after the whole CC walkout, one of the statements that they made was that every single ship that is, released in a loot container or loot box or a container, I put the two together, it's the same thing. There's going to be an alternative way to buy them, either outright for cash or for some resource at a later date. But they never said how much of a later date that's going to be. And in some cases, like the Brisbane, it was, I think, the better part of 8 or 9 months from her original event to her subsequent release in the Armory. But again, that was an event ship that you could, acquire for, I believe, a discounted rate by just playing through some missions. Same with the Jaeger too. And okay, cool, they come out in the armory for resources at a later date. Cool, fine, whatever. But now they're starting to do this with premium ships that you have to pay cash outright in order to obtain, like the Navarin and the Carl and the West Virginia 44. These again are ships that aren't in the armory for resources; they're just sold for cash. So it's gotten to the point to where apparently Wargaming is getting so greedy, they just want you to throw your wallet at the premium shop the second something new comes out, which is why? It doesn't make, I mean, it makes sense from the fact that, they want the money, right? But what's so wrong with just releasing the ship? I even talked about this in the Navarin review. I said I was so relieved that they're just releasing the ship for cash and not, making you jump through a bunch of hoops or go through a sequential bundle or go through a random bundle thing in order to get the new premium ship, right? Like, it just came out and you could just buy it, which is like, okay, cool. Like that. I mean, I'm forking over $77 for some pixels, right? I can't have the courtesy of just buying it outright, But I guess that's just not good enough. And then if you look at what's going on with the Kitakami, which is coming up the next update, where they straight up said that this ship is not going to be reintroduced into the game for 2 freaking years after the Kitakami event goes live next update. Which, if you haven't looked into that yet, that's a whole absolute insane resource drain that they're dumping into the game. Like with the champagne, you have to literally throw pretty much all of your stocks of research bureau points, steel and coal, and even some premium time in order to get the Kitakami, or you're not going to be able to get it for at least 2 years. That's major FOMO there. The other theory that I have going on is that they are just so focused on churning out new content and trying to keep something new in the armory every week, it seems. If you haven't taken a look at the armory, of course we have the High School Fleet collaboration going on right now, and we have the Godzilla vs. Kong stuff back in the armory, which it's like, that's kind of out of left field. I mean, there's the new Monarch series is on Apple TV, so I guess that makes a little bit of sense. But it's like, you got to remove premium ships that you're selling and making money off of, or do they think that the how much does it cost, the $80 or the $60 Amagi with Godzilla on it is going to outshine or draw away from the Navarin that's in the premium shop? I don't know, but those are the two theories that I have right now. But either way, I really think it's the FOMO, and I'm sure most of you will probably agree with me on that. It's time to stop doing stuff like this, Wargaming. This is what got you the massive CC walkout in the first place. It got you in hot water with the community in the first place with the loot boxes and the containers and such, and leaning too heavily into those for the monetization. And I know there's going to be a bunch of comments saying, oh yeah, they're trying to squeeze the player base for everything that they're worth because game dying. I mean, yeah, maybe. I'm not going to sit here and say 100% for sure that's not going on, but the game makes plenty of money if you look at just the what's it called? The auctions. With the small and skull auction, they cleared $250,000 in 2 days, right? There's money to be made here. They're just trying to milk it for every single cent that it's worth. And most free-to-play games are like that. And in the grand scheme of things, having to wait a little while to get a premium ship, back in the premium shop isn't necessarily a terrible thing. But it's just you learned a little bit from the CC walkout. We had a little bit of time when we weren't seeing as aggressive monetization as we had in the past. But now we're going back to it with a new method, and that is FOMO. So this is my advice to you, Wargaming. I know the multi-billion-dollar company isn't really going to listen to someone with 50,000 subs. Chill out. Stop it. It's premium ships that players are going to buy, probably regardless of how you release them. Just release the things, right? You don't have to try and milk everyone for everything that they're worth every single update. I get it, you want to make money, but is it not enough with what you're making already? Oh, man. But, yeah, no, I'm getting pretty annoyed and sick of this new method that they're doing that I kind of just slipped my mind because, I have 2 jobs. I do this essentially as a second job, and I have my teaching job, so I'm not really on top of things during the school year I can be during the summer, but I guess I missed the West Virginia 44 being removed from sale either way. But yeah, it's annoying. It's going to get you into trouble, Wargaming, in the future. I guarantee it. So best stop while you're ahead. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to subscribe to the second channel as well. We started the giveaway for the 2 premium ships on that channel, so make sure you are checking notifications from the second channel if you entered into that giveaway. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.